Now we know a little bit more about who these people are, why they're spending their money, where they're spending their money, but more importantly, what the effects of how they've spent their money. Welcome to Disrupted Science, the occasional conversation between the authors of the upcoming book, How the Internet Disrupted Science, now available for pre-order. I'm Joy Moore here with my co-author Ken Anderson, and today is Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. Hey, Ken.
Hey Joy, how are you? Ha ha
You're
ha.
supposed to say, how's it going?
Oh, am I? Okay, how's it going? It's not in the script.
I know. Yeah, no, I'm very well. We're on the cusp of a tornado this afternoon.
Oh,
Uh,
exciting.
yeah, so we'll see if we lose any trees.
Well, tomorrow's post has the Wizard of Oz image at the top of it, so this all could be, and
Oh,
it's St.
good.
Patrick's Day, so it's green because it's Emerald City. So it's all coming together.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're
I'll
recording
keep.
this on Monday in case that we just gave it all away. So
How about
hey, I've
that?
got green on too.
Yeah,
Wow. Look at
yeah,
us.
yeah.
By the time this goes up, it'll be so yesterday. But right now it's so tomorrow.
Yeah. And the other day was Pi Day, and
Yeah,
you
Pi Day was
celebrated Pi
Saturday.
Day. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
that's
good time of year.
it is. I was talking to I was at School of Rock, and one of the music director is a math major, and I
Oh,
said, "So how many digits can you rattle off for pi?" And he can do like 28. And so
uh-huh.
we tried to write a quick song, and it's like, is it Tom Lehrer who did
hmm
the all that kind of stuff. And so we got to a certain point, and then we're just like, no, that's not going to work. It's too much effort. But yeah, it went farther than I thought it would. That's for sure. I'm sure there's got to be a pie song out there somewhere.
But I think that there's definitely a convergence between math minds and music minds,
Oh, definitely.
right?
Yeah.
And so y there's something in the brain that is it the left brain or the right brain? I'm not sure which one. It's
Yeah.
where you understand these things and then they come out like easily. And
Yeah.
then there are other people who just read words and understand how to spell them.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, well, everybody, it's a full team effort to get through this life, and we need everybody and all their skills. But yeah, it's funny to teach, like to underscore to kids who are learning music, and even adults who are. It's like counting to four is such a big deal in music, right? To be able
Mm.
to like keep track of your fours, and and once they lock into that, even though it's very basic, sounds very basic, it's easy to get lost. But once you start to identify the fours in music, all of a sudden a lot of things gel. And then, well, we'll talk about it later, but how octaves and chords and 1 3 5 and 3 4 6 and 1 4 6 and all that kind of stuff. There's just all this math code that goes on in music,
Hmm.
diminished and diminished four and G7 and all that kind of stuff. So there's all these numbers that go into music that is kind of fascinating, to your point. So, but
Hmm.
we're not here to talk about that yet. So we're
Well,
gonna.
before we get into the
Mm,
the main topic
mm-hmm,
intro,
mm-hmm.
um, that Maha Hospital SNL
Oh, my
skit,
hospital, my hospital.
man, they hit every single tiny
Oh yeah,
feature
yeah.
of
So
the
this was
whole
the
thing.
SNL skit
Yeah.
with Harry Styles as the
Yes.
pit
Speaking
doctor,
of
basically.
music,
Yeah. Speaking of music, yep.
and The Pit, so they did a parody of The Pit with Harry Styles. And they touched on like if you haven't seen it, you have to watch it because
I have
even
methylene blue and raw milk and
every little tiny detail is
right.
all of the MAHA nonsense that they put into an
Well, did
exciting.
you? So you know when she's going down, when the crystal lady is going down
Yeah.
the set of drawers that are all labeled. So
Yeah.
I slowed it down to look at the labels. They even did those right. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
powders, creams, you know,
Yeah.
and oh, crystals, and it's like oh,
Oh, raw milk
they
infusion. She needs beef. Ah, it was so great. Thank you for
well,
people
it's
who were paying attention and
yes,
making fun of it because that's what they deserve.
that's exactly
So.
what they deserve. So speaking of making fun of it and pointing out problems. So Tim Schwab was on a return guest on Paris Marx's podcast, Tech Won't Save Us, and that kind of got us into this topic.
Hmm.
And there'll be a link in the post about this. But Tim is an investigative journalist who published a book called The Bill Gates Problem in 2023. And he studied the Gates Foundation for a lot of years. And it's all fresh again because of,
The Epstein files and
oh,
how
those things. Haven't they gone
Bill
away?
is in there.
Uh-huh.
Um, and
And
so
more. Bill is admitting to adultery and all
uh,
sorts of things. You know, pish
I
ah.
I'm not so interested in the ick factor. It's refreshing to put the business people, you know, who have been put on pedestals as geniuses and billionaires and realize that they all have feet of clay and
Mm-hmm.
other yucky things as well. Um, that's not so revealing. But
Or
I think
relevant.
or relevant,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so in the context of what you and I care about and what we talk about, the Gates Foundation has been completely overhyped in terms of what they have contributed to society in terms of
Right. The cost benefit of it all.
the cost benefit
Yeah.
we've lives saved, and Tim goes into detail about that and
Right.
the ROI on why it's better to be evaders than to pay taxes into a democratic society that would use that tax money for the people
Things that,
who should get.
right. Maybe to feed kids or to, you know,
Yeah.
get vaccinations into arms or who knows what. But,
Hmm.
you know, also the motivation for Bill Gates to get in, even to get into philanthropy was kind of a reputation washing thing after he was
Yeah.
found to be, you know, kind of doing antitrust kinds of things.
Yeah, he's kind of a patent whore.
Yeah.
And
And he
he's
has
been
been
that
around
way.
vaccines too. So,
Yeah. And
but,
so I've got too much money to give away, so I'm going to try to do it and make myself look better.
yeah, and now it's backfiring on him, but it also opens the floodgates to talk about all of the influence peddlers in our midst and how we've kind of enabled people from Gates to Zuckerberg to you name it to kind of walk all over us. And then now we have a new set that has learned that scheme
Hmm.
and they're bringing it forward in a new way. So there's a quote from the book because we covered pieces of this in our book, and there's you know it's a you know what 20 some chapter book whatever, and so we you know we dance around a lot of things. We go into depth here and there, but we can't go in depth on everything. But one of the quotes that I still like was you know the big funders had proven themselves to be dilettantes in scientific publishing, arriving with arrogant claims, throwing money around, growing bored after they'd trashed the place, and then moving on, leaving it to others to clean up after them. And I think that's kind of where we're ending up
Hmm.
here. And
Yeah.
what the problem is that now
Well,
with all their
and I would
pizza
add
crusts
to
and
that.
everything on the floor, the rats have arrived. So,
Well, yeah, they're tourists, eco
hmm
tourists who found a pristine island, decided to go there and then trashed it and then moved on.
And now it's also Epstein Island. So there you go. So
I didn't mean to say that.
can't even use the word island anymore without bringing up that. But so yeah, so we're going to talk about that and we'll dive in detail now. So private philanthropy and scientific publishing, more harm than good.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this first entered my purview. I mean, I was always kind of gobsmacked because I grew up, and I think you did too, as little editorial mavens, that you were supposed to keep advertisers and funders out of your editorial offices.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, there was this, with the tilt toward open access, there was this tolerance of it. And then Anand Giridharadas, I think that's how you pronounce his name, is the only shot I'm going to take,
Hmm.
wrote a book called Winners Take All, The Elite Charade of Changing the World. And had that pointed out how quickly things had tilted toward this kind of double dipping from super rich people who didn't want just the glory and rewards of becoming super rich. They wanted to have social impact again. They wanted to use their money to have more
Hmm.
influence over how society went and maybe even to change the valence of society to extend their winning streak.
Hmm.
And that was the first time I kind of put it together that this was not benign, this was intentional, and it was also a rot at the heart of American society when you had people with this much money that they could just dabble and totally mess around with things and walk away with no problem.
Hmm.
So anyhow, that's where we got into things like, and I think the first blush of this came with the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation and PLOS, right?
Yeah. And so that's when private philanthropy really became an important part of scientific publishing.
Mm-hmm.
There have always been private grants going on behind the scenes, but most of it were public grants. But
Mm-hmm.
when we reached the point where we were having the publications crisis, and that the cost of journals was too high, and that other people came in and said, well, we can change the model by do a pay to play.
Mm-hmm.
That's when different groups got connected with private foundations to put more money into researchers circumventing the democratic process, but saying, well, we can privately fund you for this. And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
took
We've
it
got all
to,
these leftovers from not paying our taxes,
right.
so let us help you
Yeah, and
distort society.
they've
So,
got great ideas, because the thing is with these foundations, they have things that they care about
mm-hmm,
specifically. Like even if
mm-hmm,
you look at like Patagonia,
right,
and they've been lauded for donating their profits into eco-friendly ideas.
mm-hmm,
Well, that is directing science or philanthropic investments into certain things that only a few people care about,
right.
and circumventing the rest of us.
Right. Yeah, so they all have their agendas, right?
Hmm.
And so Gordon and Betty Moore are from, the Moore's Law and Intel, and so they have technology. And this also is kind of where big funders and big tech and open access publishing all kind of lined up for the first time was that. And then
Yeah.
you had Google and the Bryn Wojcicki Foundation donating to Creative Commons. And copyright has been a democratic right that has been under assault from Silicon Valley for a long time because they just don't like it. And Creative Commons was kind of a cool contract system to put on top of it and leech away rights.
Hmm.
And the tech companies wanted it because it gave them basically free gas.
Yeah.
that they could just say, oh, it's Creative Commons, it's CC BY, it's whatever it is, but we can just take your content for free, and and then you start to get into another intersection of big tech trying to influence publishing
Hmm.
and doing it quite, with our full cooperation in some ways. And then you had Welcome Trust with eLife and Welcome Open Research and dabbling in PubMed Central and all of that. And then the Gates Foundation comes in and they stir things up again.
Hmm. And the Wellcome Trust has been very influential in
Yes.
policy in the UK in particular, but also in Western Europe.
Yeah. And
Um,
the other thing that it's kind of interesting how, so they tend to resolve around, we get these individuals who have incredible throw weight because they have big checkbooks. And
mhm.
everybody responds to them because we're in a might makes right kind of world these days. Like they get deferred to the point that they start to strut around in a in a way that's kind of self-defeating in the end, but it's really hard to take for a little while. And Robert Kiley was that guy for a time, right?
Hmm.
And he's strutting around all the meetings and pushing people around and saying whatever he wants, and everybody's like, "Oh, Robert Kiley said this," and then and then Robert Jan Smith was the next iteration of that.
Hmm.
But all these big checkbook people, Ashley Farley and others, it's just these individuals get so much power because they're representing big checkbooks.
Right. And that goes back to how the big checkbooks are coming from individuals or families who happen to make a lot of money
Hmm.
doing things, whether inventing something, whether it's a line of drugs or a computer system or, when software, these these foundations are spending money from one thing to influence lots of other things through
Hmm.
their philanthropy.
Yep.
And just because they have a lot of money doesn't mean they know what's best for everybody.
Right, right. And, shame on us in a way for, you know, deferring to people with big checkbooks that maybe they don't know what they're doing. But there's a whole book about that, I understand, that people should read.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot more to it. But but one of the things that, I mean, again, you have signs of Gates dabbling. They had the deal with AAAS for a year. That experiment was aborted. They threw around blame to various publishers that they weren't comporting with Gates research policies, and that's because your policies weren't comportable. It's not because we were wrong, it's because those were dumb policies. So then they started their own little walled garden, Gates Open Research, built on F1000 research tech, and
That was
Welcome did the
purchased
same thing.
by Taylor, that's now owned by Taylor and Francis.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And over time, Gates has underwritten more than 30,000 scientific journal articles. So even
30,000
30,000, yeah, that's
at
from
like,
Tim's book. And so you
wow.
talk about double dipping on social influence, right?
Hmm.
And a number of those have to do with the global burden of disease, right?
Hmm.
That group and the way he talks about how the Lancet kind of, you know, makes it so those papers get through without too much trouble, because everybody wins, right? So the funder wins, the authors all win, and they have thousands of authors.
Hmm.
And then every institution wins. On the other side of that, all the impact factor wins, and the grants, and it's just this flywheel of funder, journal, institutional, author
Yeah, it's a
alignment.
it's
That
a closed loop. And when you look at the impact factor and the university rankings
hmm
related to the global burden of disease study that is funded by the Gates Foundation primarily, you
right,
can see it's a closed loop.
yeah. Well, and I
Yeah.
was I was at NEJM when NEJM was the #1 medical journal by impact factor and was trouncing the Lancet. And
Hmm.
then these global burden of disease studies started to pop up, and now the Lancet is trouncing everybody else. But it's basically a Gates Foundation phenomenon.
Right. It's a database is that creates papers, that
Yeah,
creates citations
that have to be cited, and
that have
so
to be
it's
cited.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's the global burden of disease stuff. It's this, like you
It's
said, a closed loop. And then you have, so Gates does this, you've got Wellcome in this, you've got Moore Foundation in this, and then you have the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, LLC, coming in, and they start dabbling.
when did they come on the scene
I think
in
around
science?
2017, I think it was
Yeah,
around then, maybe a little bit earlier, but they acquired Sciencescape, which had renamed itself Meta,
right.
and that was the Sam and Amy Molyneux,
Hmm.
and who were super smart people and really really nice. I mean, they're Canadian, they're from Toronto. I mean, so but they got acquired, and then they funded bioRxiv, then medRxiv, now it's open archive. They funded ASAP Bio. They have what they call the Breakthrough Prize, and that's with Anne Wojcicki,
Hmm.
Susan's sister, and Zuckerberg. And if you want to see a you want to see a prize that, I mean, it makes the Oscars look second rate. The the celebrities and the fashion and everything else at this annual Breakthrough Prize event it's amazing. It's like, A-list celebrities, who are you wearing moments, red carpet photography, and all this because why? Well, who knows?
Well, because,
Because they've got so much
well,
money, it's a rounding error.
no, yes, it's definitely because of money, but also this promise of breakthrough
Mm-hmm.
information,
Mm-hmm.
funded by tech has married tech and celebrity in a way that is kind of unstoppable. And so if you
Yeah,
look
the
at all of the,
performative science.
it's
Yeah.
very performative, but also people who are not within science want to be a part of it as to invest their money, to make
To
themselves
look
look
good.
more relevant and
Yeah.
everybody look,
Virtue signaling, right?
everyone wants to look smart and they
Yeah.
want to be on the right side of history of like I'm helping,
Yeah. Yeah.
get us to the moon or whatever.
Yeah, and if you get invited to a nice dinner by a rich person, and they
Hmm.
and you get to hang out with with your buddies and your friends, and put on your nice clothes. I mean, I'm not blaming them at all. I just wanted to. I just it shocked me when I looked at it, because my experience with the prize events is they're nice,
Yeah.
but they're C or D list celebrity comedian nice at the best. And you put on, it's like you don't even get a Maniscalco, you get a Maniscalco knockoff, right? So
Oh, those are harsh words.
I'm bringing it today, Joy. But anyhow, so what's interesting though is that, like with Gates Open Research, Welcome Open Research, even PLOS, all of these funding things are starting to look a little haggard. Even the preprint servers are starting to look a little haggard. I think the commercial, I wrote a post
Yeah, I was going to ask
Monday
you
that,
to talk about that. Yeah, the
yeah, just
preprint.
how the commercial preprint servers they have a reason for being, right? They're part of a
Mm.
vertically integrated author pachinko machine, where you get the authors in at the top
Cha-ching,
and you
cha-ching.
just
Yeah.
just watch them go down, and when the money falls out of their pockets, you publish them.
Yeah.
But these other preprint servers, they've been probing for something like that, but they have no reason for being, and their growth is basically flat or pretty stagnant.
Hmm.
So people are kind of walking away from them, and you just wonder whether, because CZI got tired of Meta, or the original Meta, and they stripped it for parts,
Hmm.
took the brand and some tech, and then made everybody sign agreements that they were only going to do arbitration, and walked away from it and dumped all their funders, their funded research and everything else. I mean, these are ruthless capitalists, and it's an LLC. So I think that what I called the PR print,
Yeah, I thought that was a good one.
Thank you. It took me years to get to that point, which is embarrassing.
Well,
But
because that's the thing is that preprints in this day and age are nothing less than a press release.
yeah, they're
That's it. And
preprints.
anybody can, I was saying the other day, we should, do a press release for our new fake journal about fake things, and
Right.
we could publish it, in a skinny minute.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that phrase. That's a good one. But yeah, so but this thing came out of the blue, and I'm like, I just sense, it feels like somebody's panicking. Like
Mm.
somebody had a bad meeting and they said, well, let me just write it all up and show you how great everything is. And we'll get some traction. And it's like, no, it's not going to work. But moving on from that, we have, a lot of other things. There was one thing called Catalyst 4, and all these things kind of tie in. It's when you start to follow the money, and this is something we keep asking the journalists to do. Please follow the money, people. You
Yeah.
have Catalyst 4, which was a grant making nonprofit founded by Sergey Brin with the proceeds from the sale of his Tesla stock after he and Elon Musk got into a fight.
Oh, so this is a breakup
Yeah,
fight?
this is
This is
I'm gonna
like,
show you, girlfriend. And so he gave $7 million to what's called the 1630 fund, and that rang a bell when I read about it. And I look and it's, oh, that's part of Arabella Advisors, which
ah,
was the fiscal sponsor behind the new venture fund, which had Spark in it for a while.
hmm.
And then Spark went through anticipatory uh, compliance with the MAGA
Yeah,
movement, changed their DEI wording before being told to, before anybody else did,
right.
hired a MAGA consultant.
They obeyed in advance
They
of,
obeyed in advance, yep,
yeah.
which is what you're not supposed to do with totalitarians, Spark.
Well, unless
They
you want to
obeyed in
be
advance.
funded by
And then here's what's
totalitarians.
interesting. So
Mhm.
then I got slipped some documents from one of their meetings. Didn't ask for them, they just showed up. I don't even know who sent them. But they had a fiscal sponsor in the interim between New Venture Fund and becoming a nonprofit in June of 2025. So they got dumped probably right at the election, whenever they went did that. I'm just guessing, and had to get another fiscal sponsor to cover that gap before they became a nonprofit. And then their budget looks like a mess. So this is where the funders, like the funding thing seems to be drying up a little bit, at least for these original few, right?
Right, but and there's one more I think we should mention in this category, which is
Mm-hmm.
Arnold Ventures,
Mm-hmm.
because they're behind a lot of things that are showing up in the scientific ecosystem. And they are the youngest billionaires in
And
America.
where did they get their money, Joy?
Enron.
Enron.
Yeah.
I was just watching John Oliver talk about how J.D. Vance said that President Trump has shown us more about corruption in the United States than anybody else. And he's like, yeah, I don't think you're saying quite what that's not untrue. It's kind of like saying that Enron taught us more about Ponzi schemes than anybody else, you know?
Right. And so and we've talked about Arnold Ventures before. They're
Hmm.
behind a lot of open science initiatives, including the Stanford Center that I can't remember the name of at the moment.
Hmm.
But they're also funding the Center for Open Science,
Right.
which is um, very well funded and very active in
Yeah.
putting out research and opinion pieces about how science should
Right.
work.
And what's interesting is CZI and Arnold Ventures are both LLCs, which gets us into the new kind of world of philanthrocapitalism, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
gets us into the next phase of that, which is effective altruism,
Hmm.
where you have the Navigation Fund with
Right.
Jeb McCaleb, right? Did I get his name right?
Yes, it's we keep getting his name wrong because it's
I
such a
keep
bro.
that. It's me.
It's
It's me.
it's such a bro name of a certain era, and
It is.
yeah, I think it's Jeb McCaleb who and we wrote about him in the book, and we've talked about him before. He made his first fortune on eDonkey 2000,
Right.
which
And
I
Mount
have
Gox.
and
Don't forget that.
oh, God. Of which was
Weirdest words.
basically a ripoff of Napster for video games. And
Donkey 2000.
Donkey 2000.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I cannot not talk about that every time we talk about how much they're influencing science and putting a lot of money into their private labs and their philanthro capitalism, which we can see is that they are just putting money from their bank accounts into a tax haven and
And
then
then to another tax haven we
and then to
found.
another tax haven. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have put like 1.3 or 2 point, I forget the numbers, 2 billion, 1 to 2 billion dollars into this navigation fund, and then they took a big bunch of that and put it into a Vanguard charity advisory fund, and we don't know where it went from there. But it's
Mm-hmm.
probably just sitting there and doing whatever they want it to do, but they're hiding it from tax authorities essentially
Mm-hmm.
by making it, quasi charitable. You have Astera, you have Good Ventures,
Well,
and then
Astera is also part of the same family.
yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's a
It's
shell
a small
game. It's
circle.
an onion of money.
Yep. Yeah. And speaking of onions, then you have open philanthropy, which an effective altruism, just to remind people, is the idea that you only give to things that are going to pay off, right? You aren't actually philanthropic. You have to think about things that mean something to you and that relieve something measurable that you can measure the benefit of it. Even if that, the best one was the shrimp
Yeah, so yeah, yes, to reduce the amount of stress on shrimp, they
when they're
they
harvested.
they calculated an ROI that was more important than, feeding children in America.
Right.
They're doing the mathy math on
Hmm.
long-termism
Right. Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
It's
yeah.
all crazy stuff. Test Creole and all that. There's a whole different discussion to have there. But open philanthropy has just pivoted to become kind of effective, efficient. So they're calling themselves the co-efficient giving. And co is about a group, and efficient is a nod to effective altruism. And they want to maximize the impact for every dollar given. But what
Hmm.
they don't go into is who defines that, who
Well,
measures it,
right.
and
That brings to mind Sam Altman's ridiculous statement a couple weeks ago or last week when he was saying that putting money into AI was more efficient than raising a human being.
oh, right, right, yeah,
You know?
yeah. Children are very energy intensive.
Yeah, you have to feed them, you have to give them water, you have to
Takes
do all
years and
these things.
years
And so
to
that
give
was
them
his.
water.
So he's saying the water and deforestation that's going into AI is more efficient than raising human beings, but that encapsulates the mindset of these
Right,
effective altruists
right, right.
who are,
Yeah, they could look a puppy in the eye and just go, "Oh, you're not very
you're not a
effective.
good puppy.
You're
Yeah.
not you're not a good use of funds." So, yeah, I mean, Sarah McLaughlin would be work on him, Sarah, work on him. But the interesting thing is that Iconic Capital is the investment company that is behind a lot of these people, Zuckerberg and others, and they
Uh-huh.
have what they call Iconic Impact, which is their philanthrocapitalist arm. So everybody's getting into this kind of game of protect your money, don't let it get taxed, keep it in places where you can distribute it to have some social impact whenever you want, or you need to reputation wash a little bit, or you need to do
Hmm.
whatever. But these are, you look at the money and it's, they're giving a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. I mean, it's like less than single percentages of these $1 billion. And the one thing, I came across, and we put it in the book as a pull quote above it in a chapter, is that people don't understand the difference between a million and a billion, right?
Hmm.
1 million seconds is 12 weeks. 1 billion seconds is 32 years.
Yeah,
That's And so when you have $1 billion and you're giving away $1 million,
it's nothing.
that's nothing.
It's not a
Nothing.
thing. And
No.
that also goes back to Tim Schwab's book and his point about
Hmm.
the billionaire class and what they're doing in terms of capitalism that is it's unconscionable if you break it down into understanding the numbers and the outsized effect of what
Hmm.
they're doing,
Hmm.
um, and how it's a lot of us in scientific publishing over the years have thought, well, what's wrong with a few billionaires giving some money away
Hmm.
to scientists to help
Hmm.
fund their research, to, put money
Get
into
more
labs
science out there.
to get, yep, and if the federal government is going up and down in terms of how much they're giving, why don't we just fill in with the people who've made all the tech money or the drug money or
Hmm.
other money?
Hmm.
What's
Crypto
wrong with
money.
that
Right.
ecosystem?
Yep.
And now we're seeing things that are wrong with it, and they've created a bridge to a new generation of people who are putting money into scientific
Hmm.
publishing
Right. For different reasons.
for
So
different
they,
reasons,
so the money
which
from, we'll
is more
call
of
it,
the grifter.
yeah. So structural change happened, right? So open
Hmm.
access got all this funding and all preprint servers and various other open science initiatives and organizations and political activists like, from Spark to Open Science, all these. So all this structural change happened because of this round of funder double dipping. And now, like you said, it's a bridge to, the new grifter philanthrocapitalists. So you have Children's Health Defense, you have the McCullough Foundation, you have American Health Action, you have the MAHA Institute, you have the Independent Medical Alliance, formerly the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance, because COVID activated a lot of these strange genes in the world's genome. You have the Brownstone Institute, you have React 19, you have Moms Across America, you have the Food Fix campaign, you have the Global Wellness Forum. The list goes on and on. These things sprang up like dandelions on a spring lawn right after COVID.
Hmm.
And React 19 is particularly worrisome because that has gotten, you know, they're doing all these things in secret, and then, people like Harlan Krumholtz have gotten involved with them. And I personally, I'm just looking forward
So
to the
can
day that
you,
all catches up with him because,
right? So can you back up and
yeah.
explain React 19?
Yeah, so React 19, the 19 is COVID-19, right?
Hmm.
And so it's a group of, there was a woman who apparently, and I don't know that there's, what the medical evidence is ambivalent and ambiguous, it had a reaction to her COVID-19 vaccine. And some people do. It's a rare event.
Yeah.
But she became kind of the poster child for this and got other people involved and so on and so forth. And React 19 was formed. And then, I think she's from Layton, Utah or somewhere out there. So very, very sympathetic kind of person. And she's won over a lot of people to her cause and become a little bit of a celebrity. But React 19 is a group that has pushed this vaccine injury syndrome idea,
Yeah.
that it's
Hmm.
widespread, that it's a hidden part of, the COVID-19 epidemic that no one wants to talk about, and there's a conspiracy theory and all of this. And then there was a study being put together out of Yale where it's not, I wrote about it, it's not really a study that anybody could stand behind. And any sort of anonymity has been broken. Any, blinding was broken a long time ago in it, and it's just a support group. But the React 19 people were involved. Various lawyers involved with MAHA and
Mm-hmm.
RFK Jr., publishers involved with RFK Jr. and others like Skyhorse have gotten involved. And Harlan Krumholtz was a co-author on a couple of those preprints. He's the editor of the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. And there were disclosure problems with one of them. They came back and did the disclosure there. Then I found another one that was older, and there were the same disclosure problems. They never corrected those. And now it's been cited. Somebody leaked to the press a confidential document about how the new kind of illegitimate ACIP wants to change COVID-19 vaccine recommendations. And sure enough, the React 19 Harlan Krumholtz preprint is cited in that. And
Mm-hmm.
that was, if you rewind all the way back to 1998, Andrew
Yep.
Wakefield's scam was vaccine injury
Yeah.
claims and then put products on the other side of the table to sell to people. And he was hoping to make $43 million a year doing that.
Yeah. So this was the serendipitous link in the chain between Wakefield and what we're seeing today
Right,
is the it's not necessarily a medical claim, but it's a legal claim
right,
based on medical inference.
right.
And then there's been an entire medical content, quote unquote, avalanche coming in to support it, which
Yeah,
has
even
nothing to do,
CDC
yeah,
recommendations and
having
everything
nothing
else,
to do with patient outcomes, public
actual
health,
science.
actual science, or anything like that. But it's building up this policy-based evidence to
Hmm.
promote the ability for people to sue and
Yeah,
make money. And
yeah.
so it's
So
good for the
you
lawyers, not good for the people.
right, but these new grifter philanthrocapitalists, I mean, you even have like the McCullough Foundation is tied to the wellness company, right?
Right. Yeah,
And
so
so they
that
can
you
take
can
the
get all
profits from
your
that and tuck it into this foundation and fund science and drive more
Mhm.
confusion into the space and make litigation more likely to succeed and whatever else.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. And
Hmm.
it's, and we've talked about it a ton, and so have many other people. It's when they have a definitive diagnosis to a singular medical problem, it's going to be followed by something that they're going to sell you.
Hmm.
So whether it's a supplement or a lawsuit. And so they're hitting it on
The
all
best
levels.
part of that, I don't know if you agree, but that Ma Hospital thing on Saturday Night Live, the best part of that was when they like the guy apparently like he coded and they're like clear and they go the boom and he comes out and he's like what the hell? He's got the red light mask on and they're
Right.
like
And
it
they're
won't
like,
do much, but your skin's gonna look
you're
great.
gonna look great. He's like, I thought I was hit by a truck or whatever was wrong with him.
I love
Yeah.
it. But yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, they have all of these weird things, but the other part of this that is kind of confusing to me is that Cope now has a recommendation that we disclose who paid the APC. And I've
Hmm.
only seen it happen once in one paper, and it was an Elsevier paper. I've never seen anybody else do it. JAMA doesn't do it. A lot of the supposedly good open access journals don't do it, and I just don't know why.
I
Because
have
I,
a
th-
I have a
you have a
theory.
yes,
It's a very practical
mm-hmm,
theory from
yeah.
somebody who has worked in the back office.
I think it's invoicing.
They probably don't have a field for it
Mm-hmm.
in
Yep,
the system,
yep,
and connecting the payment system to the publishing system is
yep,
it's not a priority.
yep.
It's something that could totally be done, but I totally get why it's just like You got to create a
Well,
new field in
and
the XML, and
and I was
you have to
thinking,
change the interface, and you have to connect it with
well,
this,
plus
and then and there's a timing issue.
if I
Right.
invoice Joy Moore
Yeah.
and she pays the invoice with a check from the McCullough Foundation,
Right.
who paid it? Then I
Yeah.
have to go back and revise the paper because I issued the invoice, you know. So it's a mess, and this just shows, like, even in the
Yeah.
details, the whole open access kind of pay to play doesn't fit with our need to say exactly what went into this scientific claim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, the all this is to say that we're kind of, I think we're leaving a phase of funder involvement in scientific publishing. These people have been, either they're moving into effective altruism and some of their things are fading, like the preprint servers, and I'm sure open science is like, and the PLOS, is getting less money each time, and the funders are just kind of wearying of this, and they wearied of Plan S, and they wearied of Coalition S, and it's just kind of, it's worn out its welcome with this group
Mm-hmm.
of funders. The next group of funders seem to be lining up to follow the MAHA movement into whatever is next. And we need to be aware of that and think about what we do, because reputation washing can come in with all sorts of different scents, right?
Yeah.
And they're tax evaders in any way you cut it. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have a tax system that works well for people who were born on third base or who want to do this kind of stuff. But whatever they're doing, I think you agree, that they're doing more harm than good. And we need
Mm-hmm.
to realize that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they had a bit of a heyday as kind of a bridge in the kind of internet to open access to today
Yeah, the
area where
optimistic
it
phase.
was very exciting.
Hmm.
But now we know a little bit more about who these people are, why they're spending their money, where they're spending their money, but more importantly, what the effects of how they've spent their money have had on scientists who are overwhelmed with content that they don't know how to use, don't care about. They've flooded the zone in a way that needs some reconciliation. And now if they're pulling out, then let's see what we can do to reset.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, that was fun. That was good. And we got to talk about Saturday Night Live. So, all right, time to move on to discoveries of the week. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All
Let's
right,
do
here
it.
we go. All right, discoveries of the week. Joy, I think you're up this time. I've learned. So we're trading intros.
Mm-hmm.
Intro goes first. Whoever does the intro goes first. We got it lined up.
Okay, good. All
Yeah, so
right.
if you're a frequent listener, you'll know whoever's doing the intro will be going first on discoveries of the week. You now
Great.
have a secret fan insight. It'll come in handy when we're part of a trivia quiz. Remember those 28 great episodes of a 75 episode podcast?
Yeah. These little cookie crumbs, just like the one you did the other day on LinkedIn about the book quotes from the bands. That was really
Yes.
fun.
Oh, I didn't
We should
tell
do
you.
more of that.
I didn't tell you. So, all right. So, for those of you who didn't see it, I'm going to jump in here. I haven't told Joy this. So, we had a page, top of the page of a book. It has a chapter title, "This Hell You Call It, The Hell You Call a Dream," and then
Mm-hmm.
a quote, "If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice," by Neil Peart. And I asked which two bands are represented in this image,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a terrific winner of that who emailed the guess in right away, and then so is the two bands are The Warning, my
Mm-hmm.
current super favorite band, and then a trio of sisters from Mexico, bass, guitar, and drums, and then Rush, Neil Peart, the drummer for Rush, another trio, by the way, guitar,
Oh,
bass,
oh,
keyboards,
we got
and
some
drums.
symmetry.
And their drummer is their main lyricist, and Rush's drummer as their main lyricist. So these bands are somebody yesterday they had a performance in Argentina. Yeah. And
Mhm.
somebody said, we don't need Rush back anymore. We've got these ladies. So, and I was like,
That
yeah, I
was,
totally agree because
and
they are the new
you didn't
Rush.
even put those two together based on the symmetry of trios
No, it just happened.
40
But here's the
years
thing.
apart.
So I put that thing on LinkedIn and I put it on Blue Sky. And so the Warning has a what they call the Warning Army, and they have fans all over the world. But one of the biggest fan bases is the Warning Australia, for whatever reason. They're like super busy on social media. And
Hmm.
so that got liked by the Warning Australia. And we sold some copies of the book right after that. So
That's awesome.
it is.
I was just flabbergasted that everybody doesn't know who Neil Peart is.
I
That just makes me feel old. Um, but
but we are.
anyway, we digress.
Well,
But
you're not, I
that
am.
was
So
that just by a minute. Speaking of old people, I'm having an old person
is this your discovery
domestic.
of the week?
Yeah, this is my discovery of the week.
Uh-oh.
Um, I'm having a domestic dispute with a family of bluebirds. I didn't.
How did this happen?
So last year there
This
was a
sounds deep. That was a profound, heartbreaking pause.
yeah, I've been thinking about this and I don't and I'm looking for advice. So if
Okay.
anybody has any advice, let me know. So bluebirds are indigenous to this area. They used to be endangered, and so a lot of people around here, including ourselves, have put up, subsidized homeless shelters for them all around the yard.
Right.
There's lots of them. Like pick your birdhouse, it's there for you.
Yeah.
Um, but this group of bluebirds, a mama and a papa, have
Hmm.
decided that they would prefer to raise their children in a light fixture that's on my patio. So it's a
Oh.
light fixture that's like upside down, so
Yep.
they
Yep.
like to,
So there's a bowl, and
it's
they
a
can make a
bowl
nest in the
and they
bowl.
make a
Yeah.
nest in it.
Yep.
And they did it last year and I don't want them to be there
Hmm.
because then I can't turn on the light because then I'm gonna hard boil their baby eggs. And so it's ruining my patio experience. And plus they poop everywhere underneath it. And so last year I let them stay there and
Right.
waited until the baby birds like peeped out and it's like,
Right.
okay, good. And then I threw the nest away and thought that they would get the picture, but they haven't. And
Are
they've
they
come
back?
back. Yeah. And I looked this morning and there's another little teeny tiny bluebird egg in
Egg in
there.
there.
And
Hmm.
I got to deal with it. But it made me think, okay, this problem is bigger than me. And so I looked up the history of bluebirds in this area and decided that they win and I lose. So I won't turn on the light and they can raise their babies wherever they want because they used to be endangered and now they're not. So,
Yeah. That sounds like you've lost this year. The one thing I did learn about birds and nests where you don't want them is because we had hanging baskets and they were putting nests in there, and we have like this eagle over the front patio door, and they were putting nests in its wings and all this stuff. Is they have those pigeon spikes, little things of pigeon spikes, and you can
hmm
just put those where you don't want them, and it's a harmless. So next year you might put those around the light bulbs in your light, and then the birds would come in and go, "Ooh, nope, I'm not going to land there. Spiky."
maybe. Or I could just take out the light bulb, put in another thing and let that just be their nest. But I wish they would just go back to their houses.
You got perfectly nice homes, people. They want
So that was,
they're the fancy bluebirds. They want like an infinity pool and a
they
view and everything
do.
else. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
know, it's you'll look back on it and be like charmed, I'm sure.
Yeah. There are worse problems in the world. So, what was your
Very nice.
discovery this week?
My discovery came from music. So I teach keyboards and piano, and somebody challenged me to play Thunder Road, Bruce Springsteen's Thunder Road, and challenged his son to play it. So I had to start teaching him that. And it's a tough little song because it's like crazy meandering, and there's not a lot of repetition in it. So we started to work on that, and then just by chance, and I've played a lot of Bruce Springsteen songs over the years, but I'd never played this one. I played Born to Run,
Hmm.
and holy smokes, was that fun! I have to do it at least 2 or 3 times a day now because it is just so much fun. It's so satisfying to play on piano, and I don't do it in the way that I would if I were actually covering it because there's a lot of organ in it and different thing. I just hammer away at on piano, but it is
Mm-hmm.
so much fun. And there's this B4 to B transition, this kind of the trademark hook in the main part of the song, and it's just so brilliant. And I'm like, yeah, Roy Batan put that in. That's definitely a keyboard player's trick. So yeah, so that was my discovery. Is Born to Run is super fun to play on piano. So if you're a piano player and you haven't ever played that, go
Well,
get it and get addicted.
and if you haven't listened to Born to Run recently, listen to it with the ear of just the piano, and then you'll get it.
Oh
Because
yeah, Roy
that's the
Batan
thing
was a
about this song
monster.
is that it all goes together, but I didn't realize how piano forward the whole song is.
That whole band is actually.
The whole band is.
It's
Yeah.
shocking. And when I joined, so I'm in a Tom Petty tribute band. When I joined that one, I didn't think there was that much keyboard. Oh my Lord, there is a ton of keyboard. And you
Hmm.
take it out, and a lot of songs just like go flat. So
Hmm.
because it adds this high end sparkle. And what was the other one there was another one I was playing, but Roy Batan was brilliant because he and Benmont Tench from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, they actually are the two keyboard players playing on Stevie Nicks' Edge of 17.
Oh,
Which, yeah, so
yep.
Roy Batan's the
Hmm.
piano player and Benmont's the organ player on that. And you don't
Hmm.
really know there's that much organ going on until
You
you
listen.
listen for it, and then you're like, oh, that's. And what was, they were great players, but what set them both apart was and made them influential for decades is they were tasteful. They were so tasteful. They had such, and they still do have such great ears that they can just pick out this little, like there's one song where it's just this little pattern from C to G to F, and you play it and you're like, oh my God, how that is brilliant in its beauty and simplicity. And you're like, how did they come up? I'm sure he just sat down and he's like, no, there it is. I hate people like that. Anyhow, I envy them their gifts. So, and I
Well,
appreciate, I'm really glad they have them, just like I am
it,
the Neil Peart and the Warning. So,
hmm Yep, it's good to appreciate things in that were organic.
like
Uh
bluebirds in your light
like
fixture.
like yeah, well, I don't really appreciate them, but
I tried bluebirds. Okay, we're going to wrap up. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our friends at Provoke the Truth for the music. If you have topics you want us to cover, please email us at disruptedscience@gmail.com. Or if you have advice for Joy about bluebirds, you
Yes.
can send that there too. We'd love to hear from you. You can also keep up with developments at the Geyser, where you can subscribe to support our efforts. And thank you for listening.
Thanks. See you later.